Ever since I started my electric bike business, one thing has been pretty clear to me. All the best electric bikes come from Europe, with some of the most notable brands and components coming out of Europe, like Riese and Muller, Bosch, Rohloff, etc., and some of the other bike brands like Urban Arrow and Gazelle in the Netherlands, Mustache in France, along with countless others. There's really no arguing that many of the most influential products and technologies are emerging from around Europe. Even the best brands that aren't based in Europe usually have their designers and engineers based in Europe because that seems to be where the best ones are. A lot of my work for the past 10 plus years has been trying to transfer these ideas, innovations, and culture over to the US. I'm hoping that one day the US can make e-bikes that top the charts, but that just doesn't seem to be the case right now. I think the spirit is growing, but I feel like we're just getting started, while in Europe, they're already mastering their craft. Not to discredit the many notable innovations coming from the US and other countries, but as a whole, I feel like Europe is really taking the cake in this industry. For those of you who don't know, Eurobike is one of the biggest bike shows in the world, and since I started going there in 2013, the focus has always been heavy on e-bikes. It's one of the most exciting times of the year for me, as I get to connect with old friends, meet new ones, and see new products while learning more about the direction of the industry. It's kind of like having a crystal ball because the US is several years behind the industry there, and when it comes to bike infrastructure and culture, perhaps several decades behind. Although Eurobike is largely a show for Europe, it feels very much like an international show. Since we don't have a trade show of this caliber in the US and the e-bike market is still just developing here, this is the most important show in the e-bike industry. The European e-bike market is much more mature, hence the title, The Best E-Bikes Come From Europe. I know some might have trouble with me making this statement considering I'm an American, and I know that some will argue in some instances that we have better bikes here in the US, but overall, I simply don't agree. When it comes to quality, standards, reliability, that's just not my experience. And there's certain things that just come with scale and time, and we haven't gotten there yet. I guess on the sports side, North America does fairly well, but we've got a long way to go as seeing e-bikes for their true potential as transportation solutions. I'm really grateful that we're making some good progress now. Many cities are installing new bike infrastructure. We even started to set up some larger scale assembly. Who knows? Maybe manufacturing will follow in the future. But until then, Europe will continue to set the standard for quality, innovation, safety, testing, and more. But for now, if you ask me where the best e-bikes come from, I'd say from Europe. So I went to Eurobike, as I do every year, and look for the best bikes in the world. Some of my favorite highlights include Riese and Muller launching several new bikes, and an update to a personal favorite of mine. Bosch expanded their smart system, and there was a lot of excitement over the new version of their ABS braking system. Even though we won't see ABS for at least another year or so, it was pretty cool to check it out. We got to check out Tern's newest bikes in person, including the Quick Haul and the NBD. We even had the honor of receiving an award for videos we make, which was an unexpected surprise. We stopped by the Gates booth and checked out the growing innovations in the internal drivetrain space, with many newcomers presenting some innovative solutions, including this new Bluetooth control 2-speed hub and an internal hub claimed to be capable of 250 Newton meters of torque. Enviolo also launched a heavier duty hub platform specifically for commercial cargo applications. The multinational French company Valeo was showcasing their combined motor and automatic drivetrain. This concept is really impressive, and I wonder if we'll eventually see this carried onto more products. Countless new motors from German companies like TQ, Mahle, and Fazua. Also got to connect with my old friend Benno, and although us Americans would like to take credit for his contributions, I'm not sure we can fully. He's a Swiss guy who grew up in Germany before moving to SoCal in the early 90s. It was really great to see him and some new innovations that he's bringing to his bikes, along with some new concepts from him in the near future. I always get so fired up talking with him about our shared passion. Urban Arrow had some updates, including a really innovative new rack, and they're continuing to lean into the family and cargo space with some updates to their timeless designs. I was really excited to check out some new bikes in the accessibility category. I'm excited that we'll soon have some offerings in this space from a company called Faltech. We have experimented in this space for years, from selling hand cycles and recumbents, and we even built a wheelchair add-on for my late friend Steve. Faltech has some pretty awesome e-bikes with all sorts of adaptations that can help even more people get out on bikes. It's also really inspiring to see the scale of some of these other e-bike companies, some of which it sounds may end up making their way to the US. KTM, for example, has some really impressive off-road and all-terrain bikes, and Kettler, a long-standing German brand with a really impressive lineup, has some killer cargo bikes. You see what I mean? We just don't see stuff like this here. It's also cool to see some of the smaller brands and the innovation that they're bringing to the space. I'm really impressed with this brand Velo from Italy, and beyond their functionality, I really like their designs and colors. And they're completely making their bikes in Italy. Oh, and they're steel too, which is not too common in the e-bike space. Another German company called Advanced is creating their frames out of recycled composite material. I wonder if we'll see more of this in the future. One thing is clear from the show is that mobility and cargo bikes are growing in popularity. I suspect we'll see more and more of this, just as we saw e-bikes largely take over the show over the past 10 years. Although the new space in Frankfurt allows a lot more room to grow, while the mobility space continues to increase in popularity, I did kind of miss the intimate vibe of Friedrichshafen, but I'm excited about the future. I quickly learned with the new schedule and layout, I didn't have quite enough time to cover all that I wanted, but I still felt like the show was very fruitful. I often sent Tara out on her own to film as I attended some important meetings with our partners, but I think next year I'll choose not to skip the public days because I feel like I needed that extra time, and I actually even booked a hotel already, so I'm ready to go. Over the coming weeks and months, we'll be launching many videos from the show. We're taking a slightly different approach from prior years, and I hope you enjoy the new format. I have a couple updates from our key partners, along with several videos with updates and some key areas that we tend to focus on. But in closing, what do you think? What's holding us back?